Hello, good evening. It's PM Express, and my name, as always, is Stephen Ente. Now, to live without water is very frustrating, and to live in darkness is equally dehumanizing. But Ghanaians currently have to deal with power and water rationing, and you've just heard this evening of the possibility that the water you're drinking, if you have a little that you're drinking, could have been contaminated by the use of an expired alum. Now, as if this is not enough, we have to pay more for fuel, and the results means that we have to pay more for everything, since fuel is tied to a lot of economic activities. Well, these are pretty difficult times for the country, and for those paying school fees, I recall a couple of weeks back that an announcement was made for newly revised fees for your wards. So we seem to have a national crisis, or perhaps we're making too much noise about issues instead of discussing the way forward. Utilities, fuel, is it a national crisis? Well, my guest on the show, PM Express, I have with me right to my immediate left, Cecilia Otu. Cecilia Otu is a retired clinical nurse manager. And then next to her, I have Bernard Ohiming-Ba from CD Africa. Later on, we're having a conversation with these two in the studio about a bit of everything that we've been experiencing over the past week now. And then later on in the show, we'll speak to Stanley Mate, who is the communications director for the Ghana Urban Water Company. Later, we'll also speak to Edward Bauer, who is PRO for the Energy Ministry. Gentlemen and lady, it's great to have you in the studio.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. So let me start with you, ma'am. This is going to be a very informal discussion, really.
Okay.
As somebody who is at the end of consuming services like utilities like water, energy, and then you live generally in Ghana. So it means that every decision of policymakers, every decision of service providers, you feel the pinch. Tell me how you feel this week.
It's almost unbelievable. The comprehensive stress and challenges that Ghanaians are facing. We have this unplanned, uninformed power outrages. We are not informed when your electricity is going to be switched off, which is leading to a lot of people's gadgets being ruined. People go to work, and all of a sudden there's no electricity for them to even do their jobs, which is going to have effect on the economy. Because what are we producing if we haven't got electricity to work, whatever your job is? Whether you're a hairdresser, whether you're a caterer, whether you are in an office.
Whether you're a carpenter, artisan,
Exactly.
a seamstress, a tailor.
Exactly.
You need power.
You need power. So all that, other people think they just, this electricity outrages are just, but it's going to have untoward effect on the economy. So as a developing country, with this sort of situation facing us, is going to affect our economy.
How do you feel? I mean, you're feeling perhaps waking up this morning and the lights are off. Perhaps you want to fetch water to do your normal chores. The tap is not running.
Yeah, so we've moved from electricity to the power, to water.
To water.
Water is life. And there are, in the 21st century, there are places in our country which does not even have potable water. They have waters from the streams, and we sit here and we allow people, illegal miners, to pollute the waters that a lot of the people in the villages, depend on. polluted by mercury and cyanide because of the illegal activities of their mining. And we sit down and watch them. And we've even been warned. You see, I'm not xenophobic. When I talk the way I'm talking, I'm not against foreigners, I'm not against the Chinese, but even their own government have warned our government to be, you know, careful and get our acts together against the illegal Chinese miners who are indulging in these illegal mining activities, polluting the waterways, preventing some of the villages from getting potable water to drink. When I get up and there's no water, water is life. Every living thing, from human beings to animals, even plants, we all need water to survive. Scarcity or lack of it is detrimental to our livelihood. So water is essential. We can't do without it, you know. So it begs to the question of what exactly we are doing in the 21st century, developing country, with not just electricity outrages, which is destroying people's equipment, which is deterring the progress, the productivity of our country and therefore our nation, and affecting our economy. And then you have, combined with that, you have this water situation, you know. And then you talk about the fires. Because of the electrical out, you know, when the electricity is switched off and then it's switched on. Before I left home, the electricity from where I was living was switched off for a few, not even an hour.
Then they came back on.
And you wonder what exactly is going on. No announcement, they just do switch on and off. It seems as if some kindergarten people are just playing with the switches like children do, you know. And these are adults, these are professional people, responsible people who are in charge of these situations.
This makes you angry, right? It does make you feel angry.
It is not only anger, but it's devastating, it's crippling this nation of ours. The economy is being crippled. People next door have offices and they come to work and all of a sudden there's no electricity for so many hours. So what are they producing without electricity? And this is how serious the situation is, that we don't have to sit down. And then this morning I was speaking elsewhere, and the electricity, we read that the electricity corporation says that they spend $20 million every 20 days to you know, import crude oil to power
the turbines,
the electricity
that provide us backup power.
You know, 20 million every 20 days. And lack of this, and the improper management of this situation. Has anybody sat down to think about how it's affecting our economy? I don't, you see, we just handle crisis. We don't plan ahead. We don't manage short, medium, and long-term management. So we deal with situations, you know, when we have a crisis.
On the peripheral.
It is not good
we leave
enough.
them hanging. So,
we are living in the 21st century. It is not good enough for a so-called developing country. We claim ourselves to be what? Lower middle. You know, I mean, what sort of terms? These terms look good, but in practice, what is the reality of all these terminologies? You know,
Bernard.
But we have to be realistic and get our act together to manage our affairs properly. Otherwise, we're not going anywhere.
Bernard, do you share the sentiments of Cecilia, really? I mean, she's spoken quite a lot and giving us a basis for which every citizen of this country should be worried. Do you share her frustration?
Of course. I mean, it's amazing how the Ghanaian manages. You know, often when you ask the Ghanaian how he's doing, he says,
We're managing.
I'm managing. Because it beats every normal mind how an individual will survive without water, without electricity. Your gas prices have been increased. That is if you will find it to buy. You have petrol. Look, what we are seeing is almost a crisis, if it is not already a crisis. And I feel that there are things that have developed over the long term. They are not things, these are just symptoms we are seeing of our failure to properly
Systemic
plan.
failures.
That's right. That is what we are seeing clearly, because we've been under this democracy for 20 years now. If after 20 years of changing government, doing the right things under democracy,
we're still at the same
we're talking about
old place.
Water, electricity, fuel shortage, gas shortage. So if you trace from 1992, these are the same things we've had over and over. We just talk about them a bit. We find a fire service approach, pour water on it,
Quench it
for now, and then we leave it till it comes again. Like flooding, we talk about it, we leave it. It's serious. It's serious.
It's sickening, right?
It is, and it's unfortunate that a lot of people are beginning to lose faith in the system. It's unfortunate. Now, a lot of people don't even believe that, look, anything good will come. Let's just manage. But it's unfortunate. If the country will really develop, we have to be able to revive people's hope in our ability as the managers of the economy to deliver the basic things that every human being deserves. These are basic. They're not asking for too much to say, give us water, provide electricity, reliable electricity. Because look, the effects of these things throughout the economy are so serious. I was hearing in the news this evening that some companies are planning to lay off workers. You know what that means? It means that government will not be able to generate the necessary revenue to embark on the developmental agenda. It's a pretty serious, very grim thing that we have now. And yes, we are going to have to deal with it as it stands, but more so the focus will have to be on a long-term approach to ensure that we don't come back recycling this 1 year, 2 years, 3 years down the line.
So, I mean, do you think we're just making too much noise about this, really?
No.
I mean, it's very likely there are lots of people might think that, no, the whole thing and the whole complaint system that has developed is a bit too loud. Well, I'm told that we have PRO, the Minister of Energy, Edward Bauer, joining us on the telephone now. Good evening, sir, and thanks for joining us on PM Express.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we're discussing a cocktail of issues, water, energy, fuel, etc. I mean, do you foresee from where you stand a crisis in the making, if not already here?
Thank you very much. I do know, basically, I can speak for the energy sector. I may not be able to speak for the water sector. For the energy sector, yes, I do agree that we have some challenges. Yes, I do agree that we are facing some issues with power. I do agree that there has been some increases in fuel prices. But are these problems that we can describe as crisis? I said no. Are there problems that are acceptable? I said no. But are there problems that are solvable? I say yes. And are we doing something to solve it? I would say yes.
You're giving me a speech, really, but I need to know from you. I mean, from all you've said, really, where should we place the solution? Where should we put the bright lights? Because at the end of every tunnel is a light. You don't see a crisis, but you see that there are challenges. Where is the hope?
The hope is this. You do know that we know what the problem is. The problem is just that for the power sector, it has to do with generation difficulties. The generating difficulty is not as a result of the fact that we do not have the generating plants. It's just that we do not have the required fuel to be able to run those plants. And looking at the time schedules that have been given to us by West Africa Gas Pipeline, and then looking at the time schedules that have also been given to us by the contractors at Western region at Atuebo, the gas processing plant, we think that come somewhere the end of March, thereabout, we should be able to have the required fuel to generate the required power that we need.
So this is projected, right?
Yes, these are projections.
You are projecting that by March, the
By
problem,
the close of March,
the
yes.
close of March. That means
Yes.
by first week in April,
In April,
we'll have all these challenges eliminated.
Yes, that is our projection.
Does this plan sound very good for you?
In fact, the reason is that we just had some technical setbacks. That's why we still have the problem as we have them now. Because initially, you will know that when the West Africa Gas Pipeline got damaged, the WAPCO chief executive came on national tele and indicated very clearly that by 25th of December, we're going to have the gas. Unfortunately, we're not able to get it.
Which is also very likely that if we were making another projection that by close of March we could have the problem solved, we could be running a very long journey.
Yes, that is why we are looking at two alternatives. We are looking at West Africa Gas Pipeline, but we are also looking at our own gas. You know, we sometimes we are unable to control things that are beyond us. When I say beyond us, West Africa Gas Pipeline, even though Ghana is an equity stake shareholder in the pipeline, we do not directly have control as to how it is, because it is managed by West Africa Gas Pipeline.
But if you say control, I mean, sometimes you're not able to control things that are beyond us. I mean, these are just planning mechanisms that need to be put in place so that if one system fails, the other kicks in. Isn't that what planning is about?
You don't foresee that, for example, pirates will want to attack a tanker, and a tanker, in an attempt to escape, will destroy a pipeline. You don't foresee that in terms of when you are commissioning the pipe, that you will have fatalities, because that's what happens. You know, way back somewhere around November.
But of course, you do foresee that in the event of any unforeseen circumstances, you should be able to operate at optimal levels. This will not be the first time that such a system has operated in the world.
What we have now is that currently the issue is not about, and this is an important point we need to make for every Ghanaian to understand. The issue is not about the fact that we cannot really operate within looking at the various gens that are available to us. The challenge fundamentally has to do with the fuel, one, the cost, and two, the fact that we are running at a very tight schedule. We get our supplies from Nigeria. Now, anytime there's a delay in the supply of even a single cargo, it has a challenge on us, because for every cargo to be used, we need at least 10 days after we have discharged it, 10 solid days to treat it to be able to use.
These are, Mr. Bauer, I beg your pardon, these are excuses we've heard for years. So I'm not sure that in these excuses there are solutions, and these are acceptable for a country the stature of Ghana.
Yes, but the solution is this. The solution is that government knowing that this could be a potential challenge, decided to invest not less than $1 billion for a gas processing plant, for us to harness our own gas and rely on that, so that we wean ourselves from the reliance from another country. This is what we have foreseen. But of course, for any major project within the power sector, it takes between 18 to 24 months to complete in terms of project time. So we are expecting that, looking at our projection, that by the end of first quarter, we should at least be able to rely on our own gas for power generation.
So in the meantime, what happens? I mean, the time between now and the projected period.
In the meantime, government will still continuously spend $2.7 million on light crude oil a day for generation. In the meantime, we will have to plead with Ghanaians to understand that the current state is not acceptable, but it is something that we are working at. And in the meantime, all we are saying is that we will continuously ensure that we improve on the efficiency and the reliability of supply.
Did you say $2.5 million a day? $2.7 million a day. And
in generating power.
And this
in Ghana.
And this amount, you don't think that if we were investing in solar energy, for example, this will be prudent?
Obviously we agree, and that is, you realize that if you look, normally when it is very easy for us to indicate that that if you look at solar will be a very good option, and I agree with that because we have sunlight, we have abundance of sun and what have you. But the truth of the matter is that investors were initially shying away from this industry, because when you come and put up a solar plant, now in terms of unit cost, you realize that it is always so for if you have a distributor like ECG who wants to purchase power from a supplier like VRA or Asogle, will prefer to go to VRA or go to Asogle where he is supplying power using hydro, or supplying power using natural gas. So to be able to encourage investors to come into that sector, that's why we introduced the renewable energy law, which was passed last month.
Why
year.
do you say that? What makes investors think that solar energy is less reliable?
It's business. Look, if I put up a solar plant here, but because of the initial financial outlay, the unit cost of it, the unit cost of power, for me to be able to break even, because I have financials to pay to. So the unit cost of power is always high. So that's why the law has been brought, saying that to give people some level of assurance that, look, if you put up a solar system in Ghana, any distributor, particularly NETCO or ECG, is mandated to buy portions of their power from us, and it is found in the law. We've also had what we call the feed-in tariff.
You seem to have so many reasons and excuses for inability to deliver on targets. I mean, if you were
these are
working...
not reasons. These are not reasons. Look, you will need a legal framework to support a policy. If you have a policy, and our policy is that by 2020 we should have 10% in terms of our energy mix being renewable. But if you have a policy, you must have a legal framework that will support and regulate the system. That is exactly what we've done. And next week, the president himself, His Excellency John Mahama, will be going to Navrongo to commission a 2-megawatt solar plant that we have put up, because we have recognized that, yes, we need to really add renewables into our energy mix. So we have put up that. We have installed 9,536 solar installations in our island communities as part of solar. So we are looking at that angle. But if you look in terms of percentage, we still really heavily rely on hydro and then on thermal.
What about solar in the urban centers like Accra? You spoke to me about cost. So, I mean, businessmen and women or investors would see the need or the business viability in hydro more than solar. So, for example, if you set up solar generating plants in Accra where perhaps income levels are higher, you could get people on the higher income brackets to afford that.
No, but the point is that irrespective whether you put it in Accra or you put it in Sogakope, it is ECG that is doing. It is ECG that goes to purchase it. ECG is a business will have a business interest, and in its own calculations, we'll think that, look, if I were to go to Asogle and purchase power, I would be able to retail that to consumers and make a reasonable margin, as compared to going to purchase from somebody who is generating from, say, using another source. So that is the business decision that ECG or maybe NETCO for the northern sector will do. And the point is that to be able to prevent such situations, we have brought in a legal requirement that indicates that if only we have a solar system there and somebody is generating power using solar, it is mandatory for ECG to buy percentage of their power from such people, so that the people are guaranteed market when they come. What is the point in investing when you are not guaranteed any market, particularly when you have other competitors? So these are the areas that we are looking at, and we have done that. So this is not an excuse. It is just putting the right legal framework to be able to regulate it and to be able to encourage investors to invest in that particular area.
Mr. Bauer, I have two guests in the studio, and this evening's discussion was meant to be an interaction where we'll discuss general issues. So if you won't mind, I will give them the chance to, perhaps if they have a couple of questions, to throw at you, so we'll continue the discussion. Is that okay?
That's fine by me. That's fine by me.
Okay. So Bernard, let's start with you. Is there anything you feel that in the presentation of Edward Bauer he's left out, or you want to bring his attention to?
I think that in Mr. Bauer's statement, he gives the impression as if the people who will invest in solar will be looking to recoup all their investment in a month or something. You're talking about long-term investment. And if it is critically a part of the government's plan to attract investors into that area, look, governments have a way of giving incentives to people to invest there. It comes in tax holidays and all manner of incentives that the government has always had the power to do. So it is not as if it's something we couldn't have done in the past. And secondly, now Mr. Bauer is talking about a law mandating ECG to guarantee the investors in solar the market. Did we just discover this yesterday? No. We have always had the ability to mandate ECG to buy from them if we had a proper plan that, look, we want to develop our energy capacity to this level. And we want solar to form a critical part of it. We didn't just discover this solution yesterday.
So your point really is what? So that we'll
Yes.
give a clear perspective for Mr. Bauer to respond.
Clearly, it goes back to saying that we have not planned properly. You see, Mr. Bauer is doing well giving good explanations and this and that. Now, I even have a difficulty believing the timelines given.
Mr. Bauer, let's make you react to that before I allow
I think
Bernard to continue.
the concerns raised by I didn't get his name, but one
Bernard,
of your
Bernard
resource
Ohimingba, yes.
Yes, one of your resource persons. The concerns raised by these were the things that were anticipated. That's why, if you look at the law, in fact, I will advise that maybe after the program you could just find an opportunity to look at the law, the renewable energy law. In that law, it creates even incentives for investors to come in and invest. So you have situations of tax holidays that have been guaranteed, and other things such that they come in and they know that look, within a particular period they can recoup their investment. It is also very true that look, you can indicate that look, you will say you will direct ECG to buy from XYZ. ECG is a limited liability company. Now, what they do, they have a board. They have the stakeholder for them generally would be that they would want that at the end of the year they should be able, when they are putting up in their financial book, they should be able to say that look.
Bernard, you can rebut if you need
Yes,
to.
Mr.
So
Bauer,
that-
now
yeah.
the key difficulty in all of this
Yes.
is that if I hear the president giving me an assurance
Yes.
that he said 20th November thereabout,
Yes.
that our energy situation will stabilize. It failed. The evidence is clear for all of us to see. How reliable is your assurance, Mr. Bauer?
I think that guys, a lot of people have always taken the president out of context. Now, this is the point. This is what the president made. The statement the president made was this. You know, on the 28th of August, when we lost, there was curtailment of supply of power from supply of gas from Nigeria. We had lost 300 megawatts outright because Asogli had gone and some plants within VRA had also gone. And so there was a time that the president had asked, so in the course of this particular challenge, how many megawatts have we lost? The energy sector indicated that it was 300 megawatts. As part of his key policy statement that he made somewhere in September thereabout, he indicated that these 300 megawatts we must find a way of bringing back the 300 megawatts. So what did we do? Quickly, we fast-tracked the construction of Senate. The Senate that's in Tema, which gives us 126 megawatts. At that time, we had the steam component of one of the units in Abuazi was out for refurbishment. We brought it in, and that brought us an additional 100 megawatts. Besides that, our T3, we have this Takoradi 3, which was being constructed. They had finished with the first cycle, but the second cycle had not ended. But the first cycle could give us 72 megawatts. So we added that. So by the end of the deadline he had given to the country, he had brought on board 300 megawatts. And this is exactly what he said. But when he talks about the load shedding, he said that by the end of 2013, load shedding will be a thing of the past. Looking at the number of gens we have brought into the country, we have established the Senate. We are talking about the T3 now, which is going to now be a total of 132 megawatts and added. We know that if we have the gas, if there are outages, it's not because of insufficiency of what we call generation of power, and therefore there will not be load shedding.
So, Mr. Bauer, your point is that government should be commended for efforts it's putting in place to resolve the problem. Madam Cecilia Otu here would not agree with you.
The point is that the situation in the power sector currently is still not acceptable by Ghanaians. But we must always ask ourselves, where are we? Where were we? And where have we gotten to? And where do we intend going? Are there realistic timelines and then plans put in place to achieve our targets? And these answers, I always say yes, we have.
Right, Mr. Bauer, we're very grateful for your time, Mr. Bauer. Sorry, Madam Cecilia Otu would like to ask you one question before we take a quick break.
Yeah, what Mr. Bauer has been saying is trying to convince us to swallow a very bitter pill. But the government itself owes electricity company millions of cedis, which it has not paid, and therefore makes it difficult for them to produce, the power
To supply
that
to the rest of us who pay.
So you see, all these reasons, and it just let's be blunt about it and realistic. It's just excuses. But the reality is that the government itself owes electricity company that it has not paid. Those of us who prepay, and yet we don't get the power. We have paid in
advance.
In advance,
Yeah,
but we don't get the service. And the government itself is reneging on the contract of power supply to it, which it has not paid. So this business, and His Excellency, the President, said this doomsaw business
will be
will come to an end in December, last December. And we are in February, and the situation is even worse.
April now, or March end.
No information, we are not warned which station. And these fires, it's affecting the economy because people go to work and they cannot produce whatever business they are doing because lack of proper supply of electricity. And it's even causing fires. But look, let's cut away the excuses. Let the government of Ghana pay its dues like ordinary Ghanaians do, by paying for a supply of electricity so that the electricity company can provide the service that we all look forward to. All these excuses.
They are neither here nor there. Mr. Barr, so a quick reaction.
Yes.
A quick reaction to Madam Otis.
I think that I agree with Madam Cecilia when he talks about the fact that there is some level of indebtedness of government to some of the utilities. And it is it's in line with that the then Vice President, now the President of the state, His Excellency John Mahama, directed that all MDAs, that's the ministries, departments, and agencies, should change from the credit meters to prepaid meters. Because we realize that in as much as ministries always have, as part of their budget, as the departments have as part of their budgets and agencies, they end up not paying up their utility bills. And these things have accumulated over a period of time to very huge sums, which, assuming that they had paid them, utilities could use them to really offset some of the challenges that is being done. But that's why there has been a directive that all agencies and ministries and departments should immediately change to
and how far has that directive been complied with?
We
really?
We do know, for example, that we have some of the. I can't speak for all the ministries because I wouldn't for a moment pretend that all agencies, all ministries and departments have changed to prepaid meters. But I can talk, for example, immediately my ministry changed to a prepaid system.
How much do you owe the electricity company? Let's start with
Ministry of Energy does not owe electricity company.
Okay.
In fact, we do even have in our business, we, apart from just rely on ECG, we also have our own solar systems and we have wind that power our systems within the ministry.
Mr. Barr.
So, yes.
I beg your pardon. I think we'll have to bring the curtains down there. And we're very grateful for your time here on PM Express. You can join us. Thank you very much
for having me.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Barr. You can join us on the show by text 1760. You can post your Facebook comments on our Facebook or facebook.com/Joy News on TV. And if you're on Twitter, you can send us a tweet. Our handle is Joy News on TV. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to PM Express. My name is Stephen Enti, and I'm here with Madame Cecilia Otu, who is a retired clinical nurse manager, and then Bernard Ohiming-Ba is with CD Africa. We're discussing utilities, a fuel national crisis. You heard the PRO for the Energy Ministry saying that it has not yet graduated to a crisis. Actually, there are a couple of challenges. So, Madame Otu, when you hear Mr. Bauer, PRO, he seemed to have public relations fixes or solutions to everything we've discussed, from the fact that there is a crisis to the fact that, to him saying there is no crisis, actually a challenge, and that they don't owe. I mean, the Ministry of Energy has installed prepaid meters, etc., etc. You heard all the solutions he prescribed, including the $2.7 million, which is spent every day to power generators to provide us a backup energy. You think this is enough?
It's from the Ministry of Energy, PRO, giving excuses, behaving like an ostrich, not being realistic, giving excuses, admitting that the government itself is owing ECG. If the government is owing so many millions of dollars or even cedis, and expect ordinary Ghanaians whose salaries or wages does not take them home to pay, even prepaid,
In advance,
and yet they are not even getting the power that they need for their businesses, small businesses and all that. It's just excuses. He's not being realistic. And, you know,
Flimsy excuses, right?
I personally don't buy it. And I think a lot of Ghanaians listening to it would not buy it. You see, they should stop, you know, treating us like some sort of kindergarten children, you know. They should be realistic. Because Ghanaians, we are advancing. We are analyzing things. And if the government is not showing a good example, how do they expect ordinary Ghanaians to follow suit? You know, the government is owing, using the service, not paying, and then you expect ordinary Ghanaians to pay for electricity, to pay their bills in, you know, on time, so that the electricity, you know, corporation will have money to. It's not realistic. So it's just excuses. Yeah. It doesn't wash. It's not acceptable. It's just excuses. And, you know, he should come again. You know, he's just burying his head in the sand like an ostrich, not facing the reality. It doesn't wash. It's not acceptable.
It doesn't wash. So, Mr. Barr, you heard Madame Otto.
At all.
It doesn't wash. These excuses don't wash. So come again. So, Bernard, if we look at the situation as it stands currently, I mean, you working with CD Africa might have done some forms of research into our energy demands and proactive ways of resolving this crisis. We sit here, we complain. I mean, we didn't start complaining today. We've been complaining for years. We've been complaining about erratic power supply since I was born. So, are we moving forward as a country? Do we have the capacity to move forward?
Yes, Stephen. Look, I said earlier that what we are experiencing is only a symptom of a problem
systemic failures.
Of systemic failures, a problem that has built up over the years. And if we are truly committed to growing the country into higher middle income or even better, we cannot get our energy mix wrong. When you hear the energy ministry people talk, of course, Mr. Barr, that's his job to explain and beautify the problem. That's what he's paid to do. But really, we have to be thinking of solving the problem now and even planning to the future. Look, we're saying that our energy demand is increasing by about 10% annually. What are the concrete plans that the government has put in place to ensure that we don't keep going back into this crisis? Because mind you, if we even get, all the plans that are down coming on stream, our problem will be solved, but for the period. There's the increase that comes every year because you're getting about 10% more demand. And really, if our country is going to industrialize, then it's likely that the energy demand will go even much higher. Urbanization,
population explosion.
Definitely.
These are realistic situations which are here with us.
Definitely.
And we must plan for them.
Definitely. And look, there are many researches that have been done on the many other areas the country can be looking at. Okay. I've heard the crusading engineer, for example, speak about biodiesel. It's an avenue that we can look at. We are talking about solar. And I mentioned off air that, look, we have had SSNIT invest in some ventures that have totally failed. If we have really been committed to producing energy, SSNIT has huge funds that's set for long periods. And not only SSNIT, look, we have had many, the government has funds that it can touch. If we want to show the direction that, yes, as a business person, you can go into solar and ECG will buy it and transmit it. We have had the chance to do this. I think it calls for us to sit down critically, look at all the options available to us. Solar, wind. There's a lot of research material that even on the Volta Lake, there's tremendous potential for wind energy generation. It's a fantastic research that we have read. It's something that the government can look into. So perhaps it calls for us to stop playing the ostrich, look at the thing as a critical problem that the country must solve, not for the now.
You think we need a national dialogue of a sort?
Many people have been expecting even for say, the highest level of leadership of government to be showing Ghanaians where we are going, because we don't seem to know where we are going.
So if I get it right, you think that there is lack of transparency in the management of this crisis and the prescription of a suitable solution?
I've heard VRA and ECG disagree on when the problem will be solved. And you see, when you hear the producers and transmitters disagreeing,
and the different projections,
then you have challenges. But we have to critically sit down, assess all the possibilities. We don't have to just relax and say, oh, we are getting the gas.
So if I ask you, Bernard, to describe in a few words what the status of energy in Ghana is, what would you say?
Obviously, we are running on a thin line. We're not planning properly for the increasing demand that is coming on every year. And like Madam rightly said off air, people are putting up double glazed windows in a tropical environment. So now everywhere
it has energy concerns.
It has energy concerns. So that comes to regulation of our building industry. You understand? Wherever you pass now, people have to use air conditioners before they can survive in their homes. It's either that we are regulating how people build, and other countries are doing it perfectly well. I don't see why we cannot do it. That these are the building plans we want to build, even for safety concerns and all of that. Beyond that, we have to be planning properly for the increases in the demand for electricity.
Let's switch
Looking at all the options available.
Let's shift energy aside and talk about water. Madam, this evening, today, news broke about the fact that the Ghana Urban Water Company, there was the likelihood that they were using expired alum in treating the water that they supply to parts of Accra and Tema. When you hear this as a consumer, in the face of the fact that there is water rationing, does it strike you that something is wrong somewhere?
A lot is wrong. When you look at, say, the Wager Dam, and the encroachment on the dam, elsewhere in Europe, you would not have people encroaching on such a reservoir, because I'm hesitating to say, if some crazy person pollutes that dam, it will affect millions of people who consume that water. And look at what we are sitting down with arms folded, watching the encroachment of it. Latter part of last year, we even saw school children climbing whatever it is, even to go to schools. If anybody has to fall in that dam, then there was this, where they keep these dead bodies, and we have all manner of things, which is not safe, which is hazardous to the people who are consuming that water, being encroaching the reservoir, and we watch on. Then we sit down and we allow 4 of the filters to be obsolete, whilst we have, water corporation.
That's right.
The same bodies which, bought about 10 years biro pens to last for 10 years, Ghana Water and Sewage, a few years back.
That's right.
It was in the press.
That's right.
Biros to last them for 10 years. And yet these same people cannot even have spare filters. and they tell us that they are rationing water, and it would take the engineers.
In fact, they've said that they've been rationing water for the past 8 years, and that this is not new, really.
They've been rationing water for 8 years, and is that acceptable?
No,
Yeah,
of course not.
That they don't have, I'm a driver. I'm sure that you are also a driver. When you drive, you have to have a spare tire, so that if you happen to have a puncture, you can replace your tire. So how come that Ghana Water and Sewage cannot have spare filters, to use, and then they have to engage engineers to come and design filters, which will take them 6 months.
We'll put those questions.
Goodness
We'll put those
gracious
questions to Stanley Mate, who is a communications director for the Ghana Urban Water Company, who is joining us. Stanley, it's great to have you again on PM Express.
Hi, good evening, Steve.
You have spoken quite a lot extensively on our networks today, and I'm sure that it must be beginning to get at you.
Anyway.
Right. So I mean, let's talk solutions. I know of the story that broke of Ghana Urban Water importing expired alum, etc. Now, tell me, I mean, in the face of the fact that there is water rationing, shouldn't we be concerned about our health, even for the little rationed water that is supplied to us, for which we pay anyway?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Steve, for the opportunity, and to listeners and to viewers, I must say that I have not been privy to the entire program. I've not been watching because I don't have access to TV as I'm speaking with you. So I may, I may, but I don't. Or I haven't seen anything or heard anything about the program.
Okay.
So viewers should forgive me if I should say something that may have not been discussed, or something that may have not gone well with whatever has been discussed. I'm sorry about that.
We've just shifted our discussion to water, so we're on course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but just before, or immediately you called me, I heard one lady who says that it's unfortunate that Ghana Water do not have spare filters, because if you have a vehicle, you should have a spare tire and all that.
Yeah.
This is one of the things why I almost declined not to speak on this issue or on this program. But it's good that I heard this. I wanted to inform her and the general public that the filters are not like, let's say, some component of the water treatment process, or let's say a spare part of the treatment component. But it's a whole structure. It's a whole structure, and it's built. Okay, and it was built such that. There are spares. I mean, there are extra ones that could support us to, let's say, produce at full capacity. So she spoke as if, anyway, she may not have known.
So that's why you are here. You are here to educate us.
For panelists like her, they are educating the general public. So if they do not have information or they do not know about something, they should desist from speaking about it, because then they give up the companies for to ridicule, which is very, very unfair on the part of these utilities. So I'm very sorry, but I don't think she's been fair to us, and because her disposition means that she doesn't know much about the water treatment process, or she doesn't know at all, if I should say so. So she's been very unfair to us, and if there's anything that she doesn't understand, she can call on me or any of our engineers, and we'll educate her on it.
Yeah, so Mr. Mate, that's well taken. Let's now quickly talk on the issue of the Ghana Urban Water Company importing expired alum and the potential that this could be seeping into the water, which is already rationed to us.
Yes, Steve. I would first of all want to say that the water rationing has nothing to do with the rationing process, and I also want to assure the general public that the water we produce to our consumers our consumers, which include ourselves as workers of the Ghana Water Company Limited and the Ghana Urban Water Limited, meets the best standards that you can think of, and it meets that of the Ghana Standard Board standards and that of WHO, that's the World Health Organization standards. So consumers should be rest assured that they are getting the best quality water, and there's no way, under no circumstance, are we going to, would we use expired chemicals or distribute unwholesome water to consumers or to the general public. So I want the general public to rest assured on that. We haven't and will not use any expired chemical to produce water. And in this very case, we haven't used anything of the sort. We have imported chemical which goes through a long process before it is delivered to us. Now, upon delivery, we realized that the expiry date was due, and as a result, we asked for the support of the national security to help us retrieve all those chemicals. Okay, and we have done that, and we started doing this before the publication came out this morning. So you can check with national security, and they'll tell you that they have our support, and they are helping us retrieve all this chemical, and whatever we have to do to make sure that this thing does not go anywhere is being done. Thank you.
Mr. Mate, thank you very much for your time. And Madam Otu would like to rebut quickly.
Just responding about the filter situation, I'm not an engineer, but I'm commenting on what I read in the graphic, which the Ghana Water Authority did not dispute that it's going to take engineers 6 months to design filters. And that's why, as an ordinary consumer, I'm saying that why do we have to sit down for engineers to come and design, a filter for 6 months? Yes, why couldn't we have some spare, like you have a spare time? This is what I'm explaining to you.
Yes, madam, the daily graphic is not a gospel. Okay, so if you do not understand something, the best thing will be for you to contact the appropriate authorities.
Well, Mr. Mate, we're very grateful for your time, and Madam Otu, we're grateful for your contributions and rebuttals as well. That we have some messages which have been coming in. I'll read some of them. This one says, why we still pay light bill, and why so? Because the lights are off. And what about those who use fixed meters? When the lights go out, do they reduce their charges? VRA was paying themselves huge salaries and allowances since time immemorial without thinking of the machine's maintenance. This is the misery of our problems. This is from Kwekuado Agunaswedro, and then this one from Senior Erikus says that ECG are liars because they have no idea about the job, from Alhaji Thomas Chifupraso. And then, please, the government gives members of parliament 50,000 Ghana cedis each to rent a house, and now Ghanaians need power. Senior Erikus of Impetuum. What measures are the ECG putting in place to solve the load management problems? And this one also from Godwin Kumasi says, workers of VRA need to be sacked. Atta Godwin, that's what you say, that's your opinion. And we have to bow our heads in shame as a people living in a supposed great nation that could not solve its power problems after 56 years of independence. We think more politically in trying to solve our problems. This is from Joe Banye. Wow, thanks for your comment, Joe. And then plenty talk about solar. I have mine and I'm very okay. Just support individuals to do their own installations. The general power is not sufficient for the nation, yet most street lights are kept on till 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. Who are to switch off these lights? Thanks. This is from Chire in Sunyai. And when Rawlings was in power, there was nothing like that. So let's consult him for proper solutions. This is from Maxwell Seshirioso. And Ghana's Akoso Modames, the largest man-made lake in the world. Why should we have power crisis? This is from Solomon from Dabala. And I have a cold store and my work is going down. Why? This is from Mami B from Obuasi, and God bless you for your good work. Please, salaries our leaders are receiving is too much, so they should deduct some in order to finance the electricity. They always say there is no money in the country, but look at the amount they receive. This is from Adomako in Obuasi. So quickly we'll wrap up with you, Bernard. What would be your closing remarks?
Yes, Stephen.
Very quickly, I have under 30 seconds.
That's right. Clearly, people are looking to see some direction in how we are going to deal with this problem. Look, if you speak to 1 out of 2 Ghanaians, they expect that somebody who has failed to do his job on delivering to Ghanaians should have been fired by now, to send the right signals that when we give you a job to deliver good to Ghanaians, you cannot fail and lose nothing. No, somebody should be fired. Definitely.
Somebody should be fired. Thanks very much. Bernardo Hemingba is from CD Africa, and Madame Cecilia Otu is a retired clinical nurse manager. She also joined us. She's an ordinary consumer who had concerns about the energy, the water, and everything that has been going on for the past week. And Stanley Marte, Communications Director for Urban Water, joined us also. Edward Bauer, PRO for the Energy Ministry, also joined us. Thanks to you for sending in your messages. We're grateful for your time. Join us again tomorrow for PM Express Corporate Wednesday, where we will have an interview with World Bank Chief Economist Shanta Devarajan on Corporate Wednesday. Good night.